I came home late, the way I always do when a project is closing, and the house smelled like roasted lemon chicken. The table was set, candles lit, music low. Emily came out of the kitchen in a soft sweater, wiped her hands on a towel, and smiled like she'd been waiting all day just for this moment. "You're early," she said, glancing at the wall clock and flipping her phone face down on the counter. "Early. I hung my jacket. It's 10:30. She laughed. "Feels earlier with you here." Everything was warm and easy. The good plates, my glass already full, her leaning into my shoulder when she put food down. I ate and thought, all right, this is what people brag about at barbecues. Good home, good wife. It was so perfect I had the stupid thought nobody admits. Everything's so perfect it almost doesn't feel real. If I'd known where it was headed, I would have finished my chicken slower. We ate, and she told me a story about the neighbor's dog. I told her about a subcontractor who kept misreading drawings. She shook her head at the right parts, reached for my hand across the table, held it a second too long, then let go when the oven beeped. "Dessert," she said, like she was presenting a prize. "Don't spoil me," I teased, and she grinned and did it anyway. She always did. That night, I fell asleep to her humming in the shower, my calendar full, my head quiet. I had no reason to expect anything but tomorrow. The next morning at the site office, my foreman Nate dropped a box of fixtures in the doorway and whistled. "You look like you slept," he said. "Miracle cure?" "Chicken and candlelight," I said, sliding a plan sheet across my desk. "You should try being married to my wife. 5-star service." He bumped the edge of my desk with his hip. "Hard pass. I like disappointing people on my own schedule." We walked the framing, checked measurements, signed off on a delivery. Around noon, my phone buzzed, a text from Emily, a photo of the dessert plated like a magazine cover with, "How'd I do?" I thumbed back a quick "You kept me alive? Thanks." She replied with a gold heart and a "miss you tonight," plus a little joke about me falling asleep in my work boots. It was nothing, and it was everything. I had a grin on my face the rest of the walkthrough. That evening, same pattern. Late home, lights soft, Emily bright and sweet. She stirred a pot. I set the table, easy rhythm. In the middle of it, a tiny ripple. Her phone pinged and she stepped half a turn away, thumbed the screen with her lips pressed together. When she turned back, the smile was back too, like a switch. "Everything okay?" I asked, opening the silverware drawer. Yeah, and she squeezed my arm. "Maya sent me a recipe." "You hate Maya's recipes." "Maybe I'm growing," she said, and lifted her eyebrows like I was the stubborn one. I let it slide. I wasn't a hall monitor. I wasn't counting minutes or pings. You give the person you love the benefit of the doubt. You don't interrogate a good thing to death. But that night as I rinsed plates, I replayed the old line from the first week we met. She had said, "I like men with purpose, not men who sit on the couch." It had sounded flattering at the time. Now, suddenly, it sounded like a condition. I shrugged it off. I was tired. Tired men hear ghosts and nothing sounds. 2 days later, I got a message from an unknown number. "Can we talk?" "It's about Emily." "Coffee." It included a cafe name I knew 3 blocks from the site. My thumb hovered over the screen long enough for Nate to wave a drill in the air. "You on fire?" he asked. "Unknown number," I said. "Probably a spammer trying to sell me a boat." "Get 2. Live a little." At 2, I walked into the cafe, figuring I'd get pitched on a roof warranty. A woman around my age raised her hand from a corner table. Dark hair in a low bun, a calm, tired face. She stood when I got close. "Are you Daniel?" she asked. I nodded. "You texted me." "Olivia." She held out her hand, and I shook it. Her palm was cool. Her coffee sat untouched. "What's this about?" I asked. "I'm married to a man named Aaron," she said, and washed my face to see if that rang a bell. It didn't. "Your wife knows him." I looked at the sugar packets, then back at her. "All right." She slid a manila envelope across the table. Inside were 8 glossy prints like we were filming a show. Emily and a man I didn't know, leaving a restaurant, laughing at a crosswalk, holding hands outside a bookstore. Then a shot of them crossing a parking lot at night to a low motel with a burned-out sign. In the photo, Emily's face was tilted up to the man's, that goofy half-smile she used when someone told her something she wanted to hear. I laid one picture face down to stop looking at it. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse a stranger of lying. I studied the date stamps at the corners. Recent. Multiple weeks. Different clothes. Patterns. Olivia watched me like she'd already watched herself do this too many times. I followed them twice. The rest were sent by a neighbor who recognized Aaron's car. She thought I should know. I thought you should know. I looked up. Why tell me and not just walk? I will, she said. But it's not right that you walk around smiling at candlelight while mine says he's working late with your wife. If I'd clicked file and let you keep eating roasted chicken, that wouldn't sit well with me. I want us both to know. And I want it fair. Fair, I repeated, because it sounded like a joke now. And what exactly do you want from me? To move smart, she said. Together. No theater. Papers ready on both sides. I'm not asking you to do anything dramatic. I'm asking you not to be the last to know. I looked at the photo again because sometimes your brain takes time to believe what your eyes see. Emily's hand in his. The little notch near her thumb I'd kissed 1,000 times. Okay, I said finally. What exactly does together look like? We each talk to a lawyer, she said. We line up what we need. And then we give them the truth, not a show. If it's at the same time, they don't spin anything. No stories about misunderstandings. Clean cut. That's it. You want a synchronized exit, I said. Call it that, she said, and took a sip of coffee like she'd been waiting to move this step from her head to the world. I tapped the photos into a neat stack and slid them back into the envelope. Why me? Why not just nail him with this and be done? She blinked once. Because I've watched him and your wife make choices while we cooked and folded laundry and paid bills. They made the mess. I won't pretend I don't see it, but I'm not going to let them write the script. And I wanted to look you in the eye. You deserve that. I nodded. You do know you just blew up a man's life in a cafe next to a pastry case. I do, she said. I'm sorry. I wish I didn't have to, but I'd want someone to do the same for me. I checked my watch, stood, and picked up the envelope. I won't drag this out. Give me a day. I'm around, she said. I'm not going to call and check on you. You'll call me when you're ready. I did it in an hour. The lawyer I use for property paperwork has a friend who handles dissolutions. I called, sent what he asked for, set the retainer. We spoke on the phone like two people solving a plumbing problem. No speeches. No questions about feelings. When he asked if I was sure, I told him I was done pretending I wasn't. By 5 I had a draft packet. I left the office early for the first time in 4 months. That was my first initiative. I chose where my evening went and who would get a seat in it. At home, I walked into the smell of baked pasta and basil. Emily looked up, surprised. You're early, she said again. Big smile, hands in the air like I'd won a prize. Traffic was kind, I said, setting my keys in the dish. She came over and kissed my cheek. I love this. Stay. I planned to, I told her, and I did. I didn't say a word about envelopes or cafes. I poured us both a drink and I watched her talk. It wasn't an interrogation, it was observation. She was light, affectionate, funny. She asked me about my day and actually waited for the answer. If I hadn't seen the parking lot photograph, I wouldn't have had a reason to look for seams. Midway through dinner, I put my fork down. I'm going to move some of our finances into separate accounts, I said. I want to simplify bookkeeping. Too many grocery charges mixed with job expenses. I'll send you the numbers. She raised her eyes. All right. Why now? Because I like things clean, I said. And because my accountant is on me. I should have done it 6 months ago. She nodded and tore bread. Sure. Do what's easy for you. Also, I added, I'll be out late twice a week for the next stretch. New schedule. You don't have to wait up. I'll eat on the road if it's messy here. For a second, something flickered. Then she poured me more water. Okay, I'm happy when you're home, but do what you need to do. I slept in the guest room that night for the first time in years. I told her it was because I had to be up at 4 and didn't want to wake her. She smiled too much at that. Maybe she liked the idea of a morning without anyone bumping her schedule. The next day, Olivia texted, ready on my side. I replied, same. I didn't do the little revenge moves people recommend in forums. No tracking, no fake trips. That stuff is for kids. I adjusted the rules. That's what grown men do when they stop pretending. I moved my valuables to the office. I booked a gym near the site, so mornings were mine. I told my foreman to reroute all calls to me from 7 to 9. He gave me a look like, you're human again? I gave him a nod. 2 nights later came the first soft pivot. I came home to lasagna and a lunchbox labeled with a sticky note that said, For you tomorrow. I lifted the lid. Orange slices, a sandwich, a little chocolate. Emily leaned against the counter like she was sorry for every time she had been sharp. Thought I'd take care of you for once, she said. I've been a little distracted lately. Work friends, you know how it is. I'm not perfect. Noted, I said. Thank you. She stepped closer. I miss you. We should do a weekend. Somewhere with trees. I'll book it. I'm stacked for a month, I told her. After that, maybe. Her mouth moved through a shape that wasn't quite a frown. You used to make time. I still do, I said, picking up the lunchbox. Just not for confusion. Confusion? Long hours, I said mildly. No need to read into anything. She studied me with that look people use when they're measuring how much you know. Then she patted my chest. You're hard to read sometimes, you know that? So I've been told, I said. I wasn't going to reward the soft pivot with an open calendar. That weekend, we had a neighborhood barbecue, the backyard kind with paper plates and lawn chairs. Our neighbor Eileen loves to narrate everyone's life like it's a sport. She made her rounds, landed near us with a tumbler, and grinned. Emily, your garden is the only thing keeping this block from sinking, she said. Then, to me, you still married to your job, or do we see you before midnight now? Depends if my boss lets me out, I said, half a joke. Emily chimed in. He's got that hero complex. If a pipe leaks in a building, he thinks the city will drown unless he shows up. I gave her a sideways glance. It was light, but it was the first public dig I'd heard in a while. Somebody's got to keep the water out, I said. She bumped my shoulder. Sure, sir, fix it. Maybe fix your sleep schedule. Eileen laughed. Oh, leave him alone. We like men who produce things. Emily made a small face and sipped her drink. It wasn't an attack. It was a test balloon. How far could she tease before I flinched? I let it hang there, and then I set a public rule. If we're doing jokes in public, I said, looking at Emily, the ones about me will be kind. Same goes the other way. Put the sharp ones back in your pocket. That way we both get to walk home with our heads up. Eileen made a little, ooh, like I'd served a decent ball down the net. Emily blinked, pasted a smile on. Relax, it was playful. And I'm letting you know where the line is, I said. That's me relaxing. Across the yard, my friend Mark, who runs a small shop with me on the side, caught my eye. He gave me a thumbs up, like, finally. That was my second initiative. I drew a public boundary without a scene. Adults understand rules. Children throw tantrums. I wasn't here for tantrums. 2 days later, the second pivot came. Emily woke me at 5:30 with coffee the way I like it and breakfast that took more steps than anyone needs before sunrise. I've been thinking, she said, moving around the kitchen in socks. I've been a little edgy. The project's got you stretched thin and I'm adding static. I want to be better. We're good. You and me. We are, I said, watching her crack eggs. It was sweet, and it was a little much, like somebody had read a manual. She set a plate in front of me, then perched on the stool like a student waiting for a grade. You're perfect, I told her, and forked up the eggs. I meant, you're perfectly consistent. After boundaries, she brought roses. After I separated money, she stuffed a lunchbox with care. I wasn't fooled. I wasn't cruel either. I let her be kind without giving her the keys she wanted. I kept meeting Olivia, strictly friendly, no plotting. We talked on a bench under trees near the cafe. Then on a Tuesday, we walked around a hardware store because I needed hinges and she needed to keep her hands moving. We didn't talk about Emily or Aaron unless one of us had to confirm a date or a document. We talked about her job in a clinic, about the volunteer work she liked, about her stubborn brother in Tucson who still called every Sunday. I told her about my dad teaching me to drive a stick in a church parking lot. I told her about the first deck I built for money and how the homeowner changed the design 3 times and I still got it level. She laughed at the right places. She had a dry line in her the way people do after they've been tested. Not bitter, just sharp enough to keep the world off her ribs. At the shop one evening, I was cutting plywood when Mark leaned on the doorframe. You look calm, he said. I assume that means you're about to do something decisive. When am I not decisive? I asked, setting the saw down. When you try to be nice, he said. You get soft on the edges. Then you put the brick back in your hand. I'm done being soft, I told him. I'm making clean moves. He nodded. You need anything on my end? I might need the truck this weekend, I said. And your presence for a beer later. Consider it done, he said, and jerked his chin toward the parking lot. Someone's here. Olivia stood by my truck with a small bag. She'd brought the original prints back, not wanting to keep them in her house another night. Paper's ready, she said quietly. My timing's set. Mine too, I answered. When? Soon, I said, but not as a surprise to me. I won't walk into anything blind. She nodded. Text me 2 hours ahead. I'll be there when you are. That night, Emily slid into the living room with a blanket and turned on a show. She put her feet on my lap like this was a postcard, and I rested my hand on her ankle out of long habit. At the first commercial, she muted the volume. Hey, she said, I've got a question. Shoot. Do you feel like we're on the same page? She tilted her head and blinked like the girl who'd once been worried about meeting my mother. I do, I said. I'm on the page where I respect what I can respect and cut what doesn't fit. Cut, she said, with a little laugh to make it a joke. Like late-night jokes about me in front of neighbors, I said. Like extra questions I don't know answers to. We're not kids. We set the rules and live under them. She studied me. You're different this week. I'm clear, I answered. There's a difference. Clear about what? She pressed soft. About me, I said. About what I'll do and won't do. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I like clear. I can work with clear. I left it there. I didn't need to tip my hand. People who live 2 lives count on your patience. They plant little fires and wait for you to carry water. I wasn't carrying anything anymore. 2 days later, at lunchtime, Emily called. Dinner at Maya's tonight, she said. 7 sharp. She's making that thing I said I hate. You'll survive. I'm out, I told her, flipping a page on my clipboard. Long day. Rain's coming. We're covering roof openings. She sighed into the line. You always find a reason. I found a priority, I said. So you're just not going? She wasn't angry. She was measuring. I'm not, I said. Tell them I said hello. That evening I ate a burrito in my truck under the rattle of a storm and felt something click in my chest like a lock. I wasn't hiding. I wasn't sulking. I was choosing. That felt better than any candlelight had felt in months. On Friday, Olivia texted, Aaron's travel story is set for Saturday. He thinks he's going to see a friend out of town. He asked me to water the plants. The time on her text lined up with the hours on Emily's girls' night. I stared at the screen long enough to hear my foreman call my name twice. I wrote back, Saturday evening. At my place. 2 hours before, meet at the corner. She sent a simple, got it. Saturday, Emily wore jeans and a white top and kissed my cheek near the jaw like she always did. She smelled like citrus and patience. Don't wait up, she said brightly. We might watch a movie. Have a great time, I told her, and I meant it in the way a surgeon says, scalpel. When the door closed, I walked room to room. Not looking for signs. I'd stopped that. I was checking that the file in the drawer had every page, that the key on the hook was the right one, that the duffel near the hall closet was empty. I put the divorce packet on my desk with a pen and a sticky note with a number for my lawyer. Then I turned off the living room lights and sat on the step by the front door with the quiet. At 8:20, Olivia's car pulled to the curb. She got out without drama. Her hands were empty. We walked up the sidewalk side by side. My porch light clicked on. I opened the door. Emily was standing in the hallway, hair slightly mussed, the white top now under a cardigan. Her eyes jumped from me to Olivia and back again. Who is this? She asked, voice high like a kettle. Come in, I told Olivia, and she stepped past me and stood, back straight, in our living room. Emily, meet Olivia. She's Aaron's wife. Emily laughed. It wasn't humor. It was a deflection that failed. What are you talking about? Olivia spoke first. Calm the way calm looks when it costs a lot to earn. I'm married to the man you've been meeting. Restaurants. Bookstores. That motel off Route 5. I brought pictures because I knew you'd pretend not to understand. Emily's eyes flashed to me, to the envelope in my hand, to Olivia again. This is insane. Dan, what is this? Some prank? Did Eileen put you up to this? I set the envelope on the coffee table and slid out the photographs, fanning them like cards. I work late, I said, but sometimes I get off early. She flinched at the parking lot shot. Her throat moved. She reached for a script and couldn't find one. That's not, she swallowed. This is misunderstood. That's an old friend. We ran into each other. He was upset. It's nothing. Olivia's voice sharpened. A handshake is nothing. This is not that. Emily pointed at Olivia with a trembling hand. I don't know you. You could be anyone. I'm the person who knocked on your door with the truth, Olivia said. I'm the person who watered his plants while he told me he was on a work trip. Does that help? Enough, I cut in. Emily, look at me. She did, finally, like maybe I'd do the loyal thing and carry a lie for her. She'd always believed I'd do the heavy lifting. I'm not asking questions, I said. I'm not sitting through a story. I know what I need to know. I handled my side this week. You'll handle yours now. She blinked. What does that even mean? It means, I said, lifting the packet. These are papers. My attorney's number is on the sticky. I won't drag you through anything. This is simple. You'll pack a bag and go to Maya's or your sister's for the night. Tomorrow you'll send someone for the rest. You and I are done. You don't have to say anything you'll regret. Just move. Olivia stepped half a pace forward, anger finally breaking surface. You stood in my kitchen, Emily. You smiled at me while you liked my curtains. You said you loved my sourdough, and you were planning dates with my husband on your phone under the table. How do you think that makes a person feel in the room where they feed people? Get out, Emily snapped, pointing to the door. Then to me. Get her out now, Dan. She's crazy. I shook my head. This is my house. She's here because I invited her. And she's telling you what you refuse to hear. Emily grabbed the photos with both hands, flipped through them, put one down, picked it up again. These can be edited. Anybody with an app. They're not, I said. You know they're not. She pointed at the kitchen like the stove would defend her. After everything I do here? After all the dinners, Dan? After all the… Hospitality is not a smoke machine, I said. You made a separate life. You kept this one because it was warm and paid for. That's not love. That's logistics. Don't talk to me like I'm some. I'm talking to you like a man who's done, I said. I'm not angry. I'm not asking. I'm finished. She went quiet, then put both palms on the table. If you do this, you're throwing away a good thing. You threw it, I answered. Olivia's voice cracked once and then steadied. Aaron's expecting me to water the ficus. I'll be at our place with a police-friendly friend when he gets home. Same message. Same packet. He can pack a bag too. Emily stared at her like she was looking at the person who stole the magic trick and showed the wires. Then she turned to me. You can't just… I can't, I said. And I am. I stepped out of her path and pointed at the bedroom. She walked like someone moving in a dream, pulled a suitcase from the closet, tossed clothes like she was late for a flight. Olivia didn't move. She stood by the window with her hands folded. I opened the front door and leaned against it, not blocking, not rushing. Emily came out with the suitcase zipped crooked and her hair half falling out of the clip. You're heartless, she said, but it came out thin, like she didn't quite believe it herself. I'm clear, I said. She stared at Olivia. You just couldn't leave it alone, could you? I left plenty alone, Olivia answered. This part I don't. Emily looked past us like maybe someone would step out and stop this. No one did. She set the suitcase on the porch, then turned back as if she had one last thing to say that would reverse the physics. I held up the packet. Almost forgot, I said softly. Sign what you're comfortable signing. My guy will walk you through the rest. He's brief and polite. That's better than what you were planning for me. Her mouth opened and closed. No words came that could beat the clock. She lifted the suitcase, stepped off the porch, and walked to her car. The taillights glowed red and then disappeared around the corner. I shut the door. Olivia exhaled for what felt like the first time all night and pressed her fingertips to her temple. I didn't plan to yell, she said. I'm glad you did, I replied. It saved me some lines. She nodded once, then looked at the coffee table. You kept it neat. Only what was necessary. That's how I live, I said. When I remember. She put a hand on the back of the couch. You okay? I'm better than okay, I told her. I'm clean. She nodded again, then straightened. My turn. You want me there? I asked. I do, she said. Not for protection. For symmetry. We drove to her house. Her friend Claire, who works night shifts and has a spine like a steel rod, stood in the kitchen with a mug and a look that said she was ready for unreasonable men. We didn't have to wait long. Aaron came in with the wrong jacket for the weather, a duffel slung over his shoulder. He stopped short at the sight of us. Olivia spoke first, simple like we agreed. Claire leaned on the doorframe and watched him fold under words he couldn't twist. He tried the standard lines. You're overreacting. This isn't what you think. And Olivia handed him a packet as neat as mine. When he saw the photo from the motel, his shoulders dropped a quarter inch. He packed a bag under Claire's watch and left with it. It wasn't loud. It was just final. By 10, we were back at my place. I looked around the living room like it was a room I'd rented for a season and was now moving out of emotionally. It's strange how quickly furniture starts to look like props. I have an idea, I said. To flip the script. Olivia raised an eyebrow. We're not going to sit here and scrub our floors, I said. Call 2 friends you trust. I'll call 2 of mine. We'll eat takeout and toast to the end of a bad play. She smiled without quite meaning to. That's probably the sanest thing anyone suggested to me this month. Give me 20 minutes, I said to Mark when he picked up. Bring chips. Bring that card game I hate. He laughed. Done. Proud of you, he added, and hung up. He's generous with his words and stingy with his time. I count that as real support. 2 hours later, my living room was full of people who didn't need the whole story to know the direction of it. Mark showed up with his girlfriend Tessa, who does accounting like a surgeon does an incision. Olivia had Claire and a quiet neighbor named Devin who turned out to be funny when he wasn't on guard. We ordered an irresponsible amount of food and put music on. To clean exits, Mark said, raising a bottle like he was christening a ship. To men who don't narrate themselves into circles. And to Olivia. He pointed with his bottle. You look like you could sleep for a week. To not having to watch my plants wither while someone lies about travel, Olivia said dryly, and we laughed in a way that didn't hurt anyone who didn't deserve it. At some point, Tessa cornered me at the counter. You doing the martyr thing? She asked. Because I'm here to tell you don't. I'm doing the adult thing, I said. I'm moving forward. Good, she said. Emily had a way of treating you like a utility. Glad that's over. Thanks, I said. I needed the reminder. Olivia and I ended up on the steps leading to the hallway, watching our small group argue over rules to the card game. Our shoulders brushed, and neither of us made a big deal about it. People talk about sparks like fireworks. I like small electrical currents better. Less show, more power. Felt good to tell the truth in a room, she said. It usually does, I answered. We're not going to do anything stupid tonight, she said, half a question. No, I replied. We're going to sleep and text each other good morning like civilized people. She smiled. Deal. When everyone left, I dumped cups in the sink and stood in the quiet again. I slept in the guest room by choice that night, not because I had to. In the morning, I made eggs for one. Then I drove to the site and told Nate to mark the walls for a change order like nothing extraordinary had happened in my house. Because in the end, it wasn't extraordinary. It was just a line finally drawn where it should have been from the beginning. Over the next week, Emily came back with her sister to pick up the rest of her things. I wasn't there. I'd left a checklist and a note. Leave the keys on the hook. No speeches. No post-game arguments. Friends drifted as friends do when there's a mess and nobody wants to get it on their shoes. A few sent me messages with too many exclamation marks. I answered with 3 words. I'm doing fine. Word got around about the motel. It always does. I didn't tell it. People fill gaps. Eileen waved at me from her lawn and didn't stop talking. That's her style. You look lighter, she said. Good for you. Thanks, I said. I am. By month's end, I was sleeping better than I had in a year. I moved the last of my things into the master, but I changed the bedding and bought different lamps because I didn't want to look at anything that held old habits. The kitchen looked bigger when there were just the plates I used. It's funny. Clarity makes rooms larger. Olivia and I started meeting on purpose without the shadow of a plan. Coffee became dinner. Dinner became a walk by the river with bad ice cream, and the kind of conversation you only have when nobody's angling for anything. What scares you? What you're proud of? What you'll never compromise on again? She asked me hard questions. I liked her more for it. I learned she hates being rushed and loves fixing small broken things around the house because it gives her control in a world that ignores her sometimes. She learned I like order and handle chaos by labeling it. We were not 2 people clinging out of grief. We were 2 people with clear minds choosing to spend time. One evening, months later, Mark and I stood in the doorway of a new job site, watching sun pour over fresh drywall. You going to tell me you're happy or make me guess? He asked. I'm good, I said. Truly. He nodded toward my truck. She's waiting. She is, I said. Patiently. Don't mess it up, he said. I won't, I promised. I heard, in the periphery, that Emily left town. A friend of a friend mentioned she'd tried to plant herself in Aaron's place, and he declined. People who depend on borrowed attention need a host. Without one, the parties get smaller. I didn't keep score. I didn't wish her harm. I wished her a clear mirror. You want an epilogue? Here's an honest one. I moved into a smaller house on the edge of town with a garage big enough to build things on weekends. I traded my old truck for one that starts even when the temperature wants to be difficult. I kept my shop and took fewer midnight calls. On Thursdays, I cook dinner and Olivia picks the music. On Saturdays, we meet friends and carry the food out to the deck. I have a new set of rules, and they fit me like a good pair of work gloves. People think the win is fireworks at the finish line. It's not. The win is your calendar on your terms, the feel of your own key in your own door, and the woman next to you laughing because the joke actually landed, not because she needs to cover a noise in her head. Emily didn't call. She didn't send a long apology. She didn't come back for one last speech. That's not our story. Our story ends when she stepped off my porch with a suitcase and I closed the door behind her, looked at Olivia, and said, "You hungry?" Then we fed our people and built something clean. I don't know anyone more than that. I don't chase what doesn't respect me. I don't negotiate with fog. When kindness turns into a costume, you take it off and hang it on a hook for someone else to try. I did that. It turns out I look better without it. If you want to know the last thing I said to Emily, it wasn't poetic. It was a line anyone can use. Sign what you understand. Leave the keys on the hook. That's how a man keeps his dignity. Not by shouting, not by slamming doors, but by setting terms and walking away when they aren't met. And then living well enough that the next time someone flips a phone face down and smiles too wide, you know exactly how to respond.